It's burning inside, the hurting and the suffering minds, creating anger, fear and pain, suffocating our times. The tougher it gets, the rougher social media cries. But we see to it that we tweeting only negative lines. We're sick and tired of history, but repeating it twice. Greed, anger and violence, clearly stealing our nights. Feeling it tight between the shoulders with a chill in the spine. Pinching myself, waking up, trying to stop the rewind and move forward towards stories, overcoming our fears. Choosing love over hate, praying, trading hugs over tears. There's only one choice, breaking down the walls and repair every broken heart on this planet till there's no longer fear.
Walls can't hold us in. Fear can't keep us down. Love will rise again. Yeah, it's rising right now.
Hi, it's so good to be with you. I've wanted to spend time really explaining why I decided to come on board the BIPOC Spirit Group. And BIPOC, by the way, is Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. We started the group, the first group, last year, and I joined because I had recently moved to New Mexico. I didn't know, and I didn't have a sense of who my people were here in terms of connecting with a lot of people because I hadn't had time. And then suddenly we were thrown into this pandemic and I wind up having to navigate, how to connect with people at a time when everything seemed to be upside down for me. I had lost a lot of my spirit, my sense of community, my sense of even safety because of a lot of the things that were going on at the time. So the thing I loved was that someone told me about the BIPOC group. I joined and I started, and from the very first time I was together with this community, I had a sense of belonging. I felt like I had finally found people here in New Mexico that I could be with, that I could be myself with, and I really am so glad that I found you because it helped me find my center again. Mm-hmm. It helped me get back to where I needed to be.
I got involved with the group totally because of wonderful people in my life who called me in to recognize that I needed some support. I'm involved in lots of types of movements and activism, and I internalize a lot of things. I go through a lot of feelings, and I'm one of those people that tends to think, I'll just power through, I'll just push through, I got this. And I need people like my amazing wife who told me, you might think about joining this group or a group because I think you could use some support. And then I was fortunate to have Reverend Amani sort of directly encourage me. She told me, we were in a meeting earlier and I heard the pain in your voice, and I would like to encourage you to think about joining this group. And that was the extra push that I needed, and I didn't know how much I needed this group until I was in this group. And to have that space to be able to, share and be validated, hear other people's stories, friendly reminders, you're not the only one going through these feelings, thoughts, emotions, the whole gambit, and then just finding that community and friendship and deeper connections. I found new friends, I found deeper connections with people that I already knew, and like I said, I didn't know how much I needed it till I had it.
I wanted to join the first BIPOC group, but I was struggling being a white-skinned Native American, and I didn't think I belonged. And that's kind of the theme I've had in my life, and so it went by. And came the second version of the BIPOC and another spirit group, Indian Racism. And I spoke to Reverend Amani, and in our conversation we decided that I would join both. And it was my first step into myself. And then I did a home office BIPOC group as well. And then came the third spirit group for the BIPOC, and Deborah and I became co-leaders. And we rocked it. And I realized by the end of that group, I had broken my own stereotype of what a Native American looks like. And I embraced being vulnerable and being authentic. And everybody else, as a leader, establishing that safety and that sacred group atmosphere, it helped everybody else be vulnerable and say what they were dealing with, saying what they were feeling, and feel supported. And exploring within ourselves of how we can accept ourselves deeper. And I think that's exactly what all spirit groups do for the center, is it gives us an opportunity to be vulnerable, and it gives us an opportunity to be authentic and grow.
Absolutely.
We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer.
We shall overcome.
Every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
Hello, beloveds. I am so excited about today's episode because we have special guest, soon to be Reverend Jane Midgley, who's been our ministerial intern and who is also the lead of our social uplift team. But I wanted to share with you a little story. We had been planning to do some work in our spirit groups for white folks and folks of color for the fall. And then George Floyd was murdered and the entire globe exploded with enough is enough. And we realized, oh my God, we got to do this now. We can't wait for the fall.
Let's move that right away.
Right away. And I have to share with you, you guys, that when that was happening, I was in my own experience around that and my own feelings around that. And Jane said to me in the most gracious, awesome white lady way, she said, Amani, I've got you. Send me the white folks.
Yes, because here's the thing, and I want to shout out to Darnella Frazier, who had the unbelievable courage to film George Floyd's murder. And here's what happened for white folks. Their hearts were activated. And sorry to say this, people of color, some for the first time.
Yeah.
As if they saw the systemic racism for the first time through Darnella's eyes.
Yeah.
What happens when white folks who maybe haven't done the deep work are activated? They can run to people of color and say, I want to help. Tell me, explain racism to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, the experience of people of color is very, very different, and they have different needs at that point, and it is not their job.
Amen. Hallelujah. How blessed am I to have this partner in ministry who was like, I got you. I got you. And I know what to do. This is my jam. I mean, talk about love pointing us in the right direction. Because here you are, like this really is your life's call, is to be present in the spirit of truth and love with injustice.
Yes, and I think what's so powerful about what we did, and thank you for making the room for that in our community, that came from your leadership, is that we did it in spirit groups, which created deep community.
Yes.
And lots of times people say to me, why do we need to meet separately? Well, because going back to what we were talking about before, we're having very different experiences.
We are, and that's just what is.
So, but it's like a weaving. We go separate, we get grounded, we come together and have deep conversations, which we have done.
Yes.
And we are doing. Then we're going to go back separate, but you need both because we're very fortunate to have a diverse community.
Yes.
However, racism is present. All the patterns are here because we're like holograms for the whole world.
Yes.
Right? And so we
Yes.
have to do that, taking care of ourselves. That's why we wanted to do it to begin with. We just moved up our timeline.
We really moved up our
World
timeline.
But the reason we knew it needed to happen is so we could be present with all of that in our community, so it does not pull the community apart unconsciously.
Yeah. And because, working through Dismantling white supremacy, working through the impacts of white supremacy is spiritual practice. Because our wholeness doesn't pick and choose what's going to be a part of the wholeness and what's not. So of course, undoing white supremacy is spiritual work because it is a part of our wholeness. And I am so grateful and proud to be a part of a community who has stepped up and done this work and will continue to do so. So thank you. We're gonna COVID air high five.
Woo!
And I am so excited for you to get to experience Jane today and her sermon and all the folks you're gonna hear from who've been participating in these spirit groups. I love you so much.
Hello, Reverend Amani Malaika here. Thank you so much for your support of the work we've been doing. Text to Give is a simple way to support what we're doing, transforming lives and communities. Be love in action.
A few weeks ago, I woke up and I fixed my coffee and breakfast, and I looked around and something felt off about my environment. And I realized the energy felt chaotic, a little messy, off kilter. And I saw these huge dust bunnies floating around. And from past experience, I knew they probably weren't going to get smaller. So I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to clear and clean, open up all the windows and the doors, and allow the fresh air in, fill the house with my favorite essential oil scents, bring in some of the roses from my garden that have this magnificent perfume right now. And at the same time, what arose was all these thoughts and feelings. I'm too tired. I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I've got too many important projects going on. I just don't know if I have the right supplies in my cupboard. And I, of course, could get some help, but I like to do it my way. And then I remembered the incredible blessing that my beautiful, ordered home is when I have cleaned it and cleared it and brought back that nurturing, meditative, amazing sanctuary that enables me to show up in the world at my best and also brings me the highest quality of life. And this made me curious because I was able then, with the vision, to get back into taking it step by step and getting back to my beautiful home. And this made me curious. Why do we so often let resistance stop us when we're trying to clean up something that's fallen out of alignment? In electricity, resistance is a measure of the opposition to current flow. And so all you need to do to get back into that current flow is to analyze the resistance. What's it made up of? What are the factors? And then you address them and everything flows again. So the same thing is true for humans. We get into these places where we know what the flow feels like, and yet this resistance comes up, and we need to analyze it, understand the truth that it's revealing about us, and get back into the flow. The resistance reveals that truth, and the word reveal comes from a root word, lay bare. And I love that concept of laying bare the truth. Sometimes that's not easy for us to look at. But once it's laid bare, we can move in to knowing our true power and not letting our doubts and fears run us. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Justice is correcting everything that stands against love." We know in our bones when something stands against love. We feel it at a deep intuitive level. And when we notice something in the world that's fallen out of alignment, that is not love, and there's a lot in our world right now that is not love. When we notice that, our heart is opened, our heart is activated. And immediately the separation between us and other humans dissolves. And we feel that oneness, that empathy and compassion, which is our natural state. And in that moment of awareness of what's not love, there is a spontaneous action arising from within us that's our unique way of addressing that not love. Based on where we stand and sit in this world, our unique experience, our skills and talents, our deep spiritual understanding that's ours alone, all of that is coming forth to address the not love. Because it is natural for us to bring it back into alignment, bring the not love into the love. And yet, that's when that resistance often comes up, right in front of us. And it looks different, but a lot of times it looks like, am I too small to address anything that's not love in my world? Am I too weak? Am I really able to bring anything forward that would be useful? Am I going to make it worse if I take action? Am I really able to make a difference? Is anyone able to make a difference? Will it ever really change anyway? And as those parts of our resistance come up, we need to let it come, welcome it, mine it for its gifts. So it's revealed the truth of where we are, that human stuff that we all have, that comes up, that feels like it might really prevent us from moving, but we just need to feel it, name it. And as we do, it starts to lose its power over us. And then we can move back into the truth of who we are. I am the divine presence of love on this planet. And the way not love gets brought back to love is through me. So, Philonise Floyd, George Floyd's brother, said after the Chauvin trial verdict, "Today we can breathe again." He also said, "I am not working just for George anymore. I'm working for everybody." And I think what's happened for Philonise is he's just stepped in the last year through this process. Take a step. Feel the resistance move and expand into that greater I am that is him. And this is how it works. He's now in contact with people all over the world. And he said another really amazing thing that same day. He said, "We will have to do this for life." And I think sometimes it's difficult when we might be feeling, and I know I feel this myself, I can't even stay in action for a week. I can't even believe in myself enough to think I'll have an impact to keep going for a month. And you're saying, let's know we need to do this for life? But how about if we change the story about that? About doing it for life. Wouldn't that be amazing as we join hands with millions of people around the world to create a world that works for everyone? And you can feel it. It's happening now. And how amazing. Hallelujah. Thank you. Bring that on. I want to do that for the rest of my life. At the Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living over the last year, we have created space for people to really go to a deeper understanding of how systemic racism impacts them and impacts their life, their world. And obviously it's very different depending on whether you're a person of color experiencing that on a daily basis or a white person who may be just awakening to the fact that you're participating in white supremacy. And we have done this in a very loving, community-based way. so that people can be very open and authentic with each other. Because without that, we can't move forward. And yet for some people, it seems very difficult to go from that awareness to the action. And that action that is perfect for us is always spontaneously arising as the awareness happens of the not love. And yet that resistance can come up and feel like it's going to stop us. However, we can absolutely welcome it, feel those feelings, and we can get help from our community. Sometimes we need to say to each other, I said this to somebody just recently, can you remind me of who I truly am? Because I had forgotten. I thought I was small. I thought I wasn't able to rise to the occasion that was being called forth from me from Spirit. And he reminded me of who I am. And that's what we can do for each other. So get support within this community to be that person who can get back into that flow when the resistance comes up. I know that sometimes we do need that support. So reach out in this community. We have groups, we have all kinds of resources that will help us all be that powerful divine presence of love that is the truth of who we are. So Martin Luther King Jr. said in his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, we adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. And this points to something about the blessings of resistance and how resistance actually leads us to the freedom on a whole other level. Because nonviolence, and I've been trained in nonviolence, and when I was part of doing actions, we were in a field of unconditional love and unarmed truth. And it was phenomenal as long as you're in that field, and this applies to any level of action to address the not love and bring it in back to the love. We get to let the resistance come up. So the nonviolence isn't causing the resistance, but the society has to have a mirror held up to it. And that is the resistance coming up. The truth is revealed and laid bare about the society. And this is how the civil rights movement transformed this country. And this is how Black Lives Matter and many other organizations are doing it now. So we don't have to be afraid of the resistance, as long as we're in the field of love. That is the key. Then we can enable it to be a gift. So recently, as I said, we've been making space to explore some of these issues on a very personal level. This month, we're making this love in action real. How do we really do it? Which is a fantastic opportunity. So I'd like you this week to, with fresh eyes, allow yourself to look out at your world and see what is not love. This is going to be different for each person. But do that with new eyes so you really see and allow that to come forth. As you do, this spontaneous action that's yours to do to bring that back into alignment arises, and the resistance and some doubts and fears are going to come up, probably. That's the human stuff. It's normal and natural. So just allow that. Say the resistance, bring it on. I'm ready. Show me what you got. And then if you need help to get into the blessings of the resistance, to get into the vision of that field of love and your role in bringing it to reality, reach out and get help from the community. So I know that this community at peace with itself, this beautiful, amazing vision, is absolutely attainable. And it's attainable as we allow this beautiful process of opening our hearts to what's not love, to understanding that the way this changes, the way the alignment is brought back into itself is through each of us individually. That's how it's always been, and that's how it always will be. And how empowering is that? We get to be a part of it, but we get to do our unique contribution. So I know this community at peace is attainable, and it's happening through us right now, beloveds. And so it is.
We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer.
We shall overcome.
Every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. Come on now.
Sing now. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer.
We shall overcome.
Every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We shall